about 400 kids that would come to Mass 3 days a week. And one of my main goals was to impress upon those children what the goal of life is. Because they live in a world, as we do as well, that's very much focused on the material goods of this planet. Not so much on the reward of salvation Jesus promises for those who love him and obey him. And so, almost at every Mass, at some point during the homily, I would say, what is the goal of life? And these 400 kids would scream out, heaven! And they love to do this because it's the only time they get to scream in church. And one day, after I asked the question, I said, how do you get there? And there was silence. And then a little boy screamed out, you gotta die. This is true. You have to die to get to heaven. Now, I find the biggest fear most people have is death. Because really that's the one unknown. Nobody really understands where they stand to some degree or another. Not everybody, but a lot of people, they worry about this. Now, if the goal of your life is heaven, and death is the chariot that takes you to your goal, why would you fear it? Right? Why would you fear this? We shouldn't fear this. This is something we should be looking forward to. You know, when St. Therese of Lisieux was a little girl, tiny, maybe 4 or 5 years old, she was already having visions of Jesus and Mary, and she knew what heaven was all about. She understood the beauty of heaven and the great gift that heaven was. And so one day she went up to her mother and she said, Mommy, I can't wait for you to die. Now, most parents would be put off by that, but her mother knew this was a special kid. And she looked at her and she's like, why do you say that? And she says, because it's the most beautiful place you'll ever imagine, and I can't wait for you to have that, because I want what's best for you. See, the little girl knew her priorities were really very much in focus. Similarly, you know, we have 2 other saints I'm going to talk about. One is Dominic Savio. This was a little boy, lived in Italy in the 1800s. And he was being mentored by another saint-to-be named Don Bosco. And Don Bosco took in a lot of these little boys who kind of had no path and were heading down the wrong road, and he would mentor them. And one day he stopped the little boys who were playing football, soccer here, or actually football here, soccer back home. And he said to them, what would you do if Jesus appeared to you right now? And he said to you, you have 1 hour to live. And some of the boys said, I would have to go to confession, or I would want to run to go to Mass, or I'd have to ask somebody to forgive me, or I would ask forgiveness of others. And Dominic said, I would play football. Really? Why is that? Because I've already been to Mass, and I prayed my rosary, and I have no one to ask forgiveness of, and I have no one to forgive. He was ready to die every day. So he was ready. And oddly, when he turned 12, he would be called home, and he did die as a little boy. The other saint is Bishop John Fisher, who was in the Tower of London being held prisoner, waiting for his execution because he challenged Henry VIII about the very gift of marriage, and that marriage is till death, and you can't just dispose of your wife when you want to. And he was woken up in the morning by the executioner, very early, about 5 o'clock, and he said to him, today is the day you will be executed, probably around 11 o'clock. And John Fisher said, thank you for letting me know that. Now, could I go back to sleep? I'm very tired. And he said, well, you do what you want to do. So when asked, in the moments of their final hour of life, these 2 canonized saints, one chose to sleep, the other chose to play football. Would your last hour look like that? Or would you be like the boys, running to find a priest, or going to confession or Mass or whatever? Don't leave the things undone you need to be doing. Today when Jesus is talking to these people, they're seeking him out, which we would think is a good thing. Right? Seeking Jesus is a good thing. But they're not seeking Jesus for Jesus. They want more bread and fish. They're looking for the gifts. They're not looking for the gift giver. That's a problem. It's a problem for us. It's a problem for him, the Lord. He doesn't want us seeking him out for what he can do for us. Remember that song for the You Are Older in the 80s? What have you done for me lately? That's what they're doing. And he says, that's not who I want you to be with me. I want you to be my best friend, my companion. And when I do bestow gifts on you, that's a blessing. But don't seek me out for those things, because you'll be missing the greatest gift of all, which is heaven. That's where I want you to put every decision we make in life should have on the top of our brain and on the horizon of all our decisions, heaven. Is this decision bringing me closer to my goal, or is this decision leading me away from my goal? Is this habit I have leading me to heaven, or is this habit I have leading me to hell? These are the things we should be thinking about when we make our daily decisions. Do we love him above all else? Is he the most important person in our lives? Because when he is, every decision we make will be formed around putting him in the center. About a year ago, maybe longer than that now, was when I first got to St. Catherine. I was noticing, a lot of people were coming to Mass out of habit. This happens. It happens to many of us. I did it for a long time too. You just show up because you're supposed to. We're showing up because this man died for us. This man created us to be part of his family. He gave us the whole universe to be the stage where he would encounter us. That's the only reason it exists. It's for our benefit. Everything in creation was made for man, except man was made for God. And so he creates everything. Our first parents messed up in the garden. And so he fashions a rescue mission to come and set us free, to bring us new life. Sometimes when I ask people, why did Jesus come? To make us better. No, not to make us better. We were dead. He came to give us new life. And he did indeed do that. And then he even gave us his mother at the cross. And then he went to heaven and sent us his Spirit. The very Spirit that led him the 33 years he walked the earth. The same Spirit. And then he instituted the sacraments to keep us replenished and fresh. And then to wash away our sins when we make mistakes. And then a guardian angel to personally watch over us every day and every moment of our life. He has stacked the deck in our favor so we could attain heaven. And yet 90% or more of the planet doesn't want anything to do with him. It's an oddity, isn't it? Why do people hate him so much? He's so good. Everything he did was good. And all he asks us, just follow me. Make me part of your life. Put me into the every day of your life. And come to Mass on Sunday to say thank you. Just to say thank you, to adore me, to love me, and thank me for all I've given you. And if you could even imagine what's coming for that too. We have a lot of gifts, graces, and blessings in our life. Probably only 10% of them we see and know about. The other 90% are not known and not seen, and we don't even know. But one day we will. And we'll be shocked at how much he loved us, that he would do all these things in our favor. He would put together situations and have all these little God winks through life to let us know he's with us. And we can depend on him. He's the only person that never flip-flops. He's the only person that will be faithful to the end. He's the only person who will love us no matter what we do, regardless. And he never changes. That's the good news about God. He never, ever changes. He's always the same, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. The funny part about God, though, is you can never know what he's doing next. We can always depend on his nature. We can never depend or figure out what is his next move. It's usually not the way we would do things. This is what makes life exciting. For people that are alpha planners, this is very frustrating. Because we're like, well, no, that's not how I would do it. He's like, yeah, I know. That's why I'm doing it this way. Because my way is better. I have a really good friend who was a nun, and her name was Sister Mary Hope. She was the most happy woman you've ever met. She was always beaming and smiling and laughing. And one day I was looking at her at Mass, and she looked like death. And I said, oh, something's bad. Something happened to Sister Mary Hope. She's hopeless. And so after Mass, I said, Sister, what's wrong? And she goes, it's not always so easy being married to Jesus. I said, what do you mean? She goes, because when there's a problem in the marriage, it's always my fault. Because he's never wrong. And I said, well, this is true, but you already know it up here. Get it down here. This is true, right? But he always knows what's best for us, even when we don't know ourselves. And so make this the day that you turn that corner and you want to adore him for who he is and love him for who he is, not for what he can do for us, but who he is to us. And everything will change.